The Focal Bathys versus the Airpods Max. And I'm also going to include some notes on the Sennheiser PXC 550s. Headphones.com sent these out to me. By the way, 365-day return policy when you buy from headphones.com. Link below, supports the channel. And because I got these sent to me, I didn't know about the prices. These actually are $300 more than the Apple AirPods Max. I did not know that before today, so here's what I had decided before I found that out. These are better. There's a better fit and feel. This luscious, soft, memory foamy, leathery. When these things are on, you feel much more locked in. I had moments where the AirPods Max were actually kind of like coming loose on my head. My hands were full of something and I was like, they're about to fall off. It's better for DAC mode, where you have a USB-C you connect to your computer and then you're going through some digital audio conversion. Here, it sounds really good. It's also better because we have just a standard headphone cable right here. The Apple AirPods Max, they do make a cable that goes from the Lightning, why isn't this USB-C? Lightning to a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So you can get a wired connection here, but it's still gonna go through this digital audio converter here. On these Sennheiser PXC 550s, even when they run out of battery, you can use them as headphones, if I remember correctly. But on these, I did have my battery go dead, and there was no sound that I could generate from this, even with a wired regular headphone connection. Speaking to battery, these actually have a better battery life than these as well. Apparently 30 hours to 20 hours, and I've used these both a bunch, and I've definitely noticed that this just keeps going. But are they $300 better? Yes, for me. No, for you. Unless you also are recently separated from your wife of 20 years and you write sad songs in your apartment while the kids are away and you want a seriously delicious sounding headphone to get lost and immersed in with some noise canceling. You're okay with spending a little extra for something that you're just gonna lock in with for forever. The feel, the comfort, the fit, the isolation and noise canceling, the standard headphone jack, and the nice clarity and bass response had me getting really lost in the creativity. I had these first, and I was with them for maybe a month, and then these came, and I was really excited for these. I was like, yeah. I thought they were another like $700, $800 headphone. Like, what is this gonna be like? And that's how I tested them. It was never this thing in my mind like, oh, these are $300 less than these. And I was so excited to, lock in with these. And after about 2 weeks, I found myself going back to these, wanting to go back to these. Why? They fit better. They feel better. The materials are solid. I like both of these materials. I do. I really do. But this is just fine. Super, I love this. The density and heft of it. But just the softness of these ears, the way things work with DAC mode. I'm plugged into my computer and it's charging. I have to charge these every night if I'm not plugged into the computer and charging, I do really love the design, the physical appearance, how this moves smoothly, the lusciousness of this little kind of tennis racket kind of vibe here, and the simplicity of this little dial. This little dial's awesome. It just feels really good. It's a button and then just one other button for your transparency or noise isolation. These feel really good. The ear cups, the material, everything on it does feel quite next level. And as an Apple product, you're in the ecosystem. It fires right up with any of your Apple devices. I personally love this little case that they just slide right into, and it doesn't take up much space in the bag at all. A lot of people have complained about how exposed and how unprotected these bits are all across, and it's true, it's not the most protective thing. Also, they will stay on if you don't put them in this case. Like I had in the back of the car, in a bag, not in the case, and my phone was like, I'm pretty sure you want me to play this through those, right? Yeah, I got you. The ecosystem really had my back there. But I actually like the minimalism of this case. It doesn't take up much space in the bag, and I haven't personally felt like super exposed there. However, they are less comfortable. They really are. They're nice, but there's more of a pinch up here than down here. You feel the sort of unevenness of it, and totally nothing like that going on with these. And obviously your head is gonna be different. Everybody has different heads, right? But I noticed that, and in order to alleviate that, I have to like stretch this out a little bit. It gets a little bit looser. I do like the coolness, the sort of futuristic, techie quality of this material here. It does literally have like temperature-wise a kind of a cool feeling to it. And I do just love like I don't know, just the way these fabrics look and feel. I don't know, it's really, really lovely. However, much worse, still a fine voice microphone for phone calls. It's fine. This definitely did better in my testing, and actually the Sennheiser PXE 550s, by a long shot, I was totally surprised, by a long shot, had a better sounding microphone that isolated against the background noise quite a bit more. This isolated background noise when I was on the conversation much more than this one. These controls here are great. Up, down, middle button. That's what you're used to on every single headphone you've ever used. The middle button is also your Bluetooth button, so you just push and hold that down. Now you will get good at noticing the difference between off, all the way that way, on, all the way that way, and DAC there in the middle. You also have a voice assistant button right here. You connect it to Siri or your Google, whatever version of that is. USB-C and then headphone. And then on this side, the only button here is your active noise canceling. You push it once to go into transparency mode, once to go into your preferred mode of noise cancellation. Hold it down for 2 seconds to change between soft or silent modes. And then when you push it again, one time, you're in transparency. Push it again, you're in whatever one you set previously. Okay, I've done some testing on these, both in Bluetooth modes across all of these, and DAC mode with the focals. I'm using FLAC audio files, but it's going through Bluetooth except for testing the DAC. But let's start with the noise cancellation across these. First of all, the Max is really better at noise cancellation. It's noticeable. They did a great job on that with this. With Bathys, they did second best. This was the PXE 550, quite a bit less, but it's all fine, you know. The Max is definitely noticeable. One thing about the Bathys, or Bathys, again, I don't know if I'm saying this right. One thing about the focals is you only have transparency mode, soft, and then silent. Silent is the more active noise canceling. Soft has some noise canceling you can tell, but there's no way to turn it off completely, which is something that I had heard on the Airpods Max, and it's obviously makes sense that when you have the noise cancellation turned on, you're gonna lose some sound quality. People have said that to me about this. Honestly, I didn't notice a massive difference. Let me just say this. It was a less noticeable difference on the Max between noise canceling on and noise canceling off than there was a difference in sound, like fidelity, between these two. So the first song was Railroad Wings by Patty Griffin. Really just bright little guitar type stuff. I started with these. It sounded so good. You get this really, really clear, present highs on that guitar. Her voice sounded great. This was my reference for this song. And then I put these on. This was again in Bluetooth mode, and it was richer by a long shot. By a long shot. I was very surprised by this. Without sacrificing any of the fidelity on the high ends, the plinking guitars and things like that, there was very noticeably, it became clear through lots of other songs, a richer low end, much more clarity in the low mids, And there's something that this does to vocals. I went back to this on that track and it just sounded so flat. I tried these afterwards and it was even more flat. Then Lauryn Hill's Everything is Everything. This is when I noticed that it almost seems like the speaker drivers are like a little bit further out from the ear or something. There's just more of a spaciousness alongside of that richer low mids, more detail. I switched to Death Cab for Cutie's song Lightness, started that on the maxes, and it sounded great. There's this swirling sort of sound effect you can hear at the end of the song that goes through the entire song, but it feels like it's a part of the bass. It sounded great. The maxes were awesome. And then when I switched to this, again in Bluetooth mode, it was just better. I just like, I ever have this note like, oh God, so good. It really, it was more, it like I felt it through more of my body. Was that weird? Then Song for Zula from an artist known as Phosphorescent, and started on these. It was I love this song. I love this song. It's just so, it's like worship. And it sounds great, this like boom, 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 bass line with these mellow textured strings. It sounded good. Tinnier snare, crunchier highs, a noticeably flatter vocal. Like the soundstage goes away. This is really noticeable in this song that it seems like it's a really flat feeling. And the sounds are, it still is immersive enough if I wasn't comparing these back to back. But when I went back to this, it's like you're in the room with the artist. It's like I can feel where things are in the space quite a bit more. They call that soundstage. So how is Focal doing this? How are these speaker drivers working like this? One of the things that's going on is they're patented M-shaped aluminum magnesium speaker drivers. That's all I got for you. It's the same one that they're using in the Alere. They put out in the Alere like in 2016, which is an open back headphone from them. I have tried their $4,000 Focal Utopias, which were for sure the most mind-blowing headphones I've ever used. I'm not back and forthing this with those right now, so I couldn't tell you how this would compare to that, except for the fact that like actually this is behaving really good. So something about these drivers. And then I also think just the seal, how they're tuning, they're just fucking gangsters. Pardon my French. I think they're just sound gangsters. So then I switched to DAC mode. Plug in this little USB-C right here, turn this knob, this little switch to DAC. And the DAC mode was noticeable. On that same Phosphorescent song, I noticed quite a bit more of this like really breathy, high-end, like way upper register stuff on the snare, the reverbs that they're using. It was noticeable. It wasn't the thing that like, it made it more realistic. It was plenty realistic before, to be honest, but it was surprisingly noticeable how much more on the high end I got. Then I went to Fleetwood Mac's Secondhand News, and listening to that through this on DAC, it was just like, have I ever even heard this song? These great background vocals start coming in, and there's this weird, like a lot of the lusciousness of the sound actually is coming from these vocals. And then I switched to this, and it was like, yeah, way more crunchy, tinny. You're losing the 3D quality of it in some ways. You know, talking about sound stuff, it's easy to get really excited about the differences in sounds when truthfully, if I didn't go off of anything from this, or if I just was at this the whole time, I'd have been like, this is a good song. I can hear a lot of the things going on. But being able to go into DAC mode on this and listen to a great flack of this fucking classic band like Fleetwood Mac in the studio, you can just like hear the like, you know, lay down in the tall grass and let me do my stuff. It's like, obviously the sounds, I much preferred this. And I think you will too. This has a case like so. It's a very hard case. Headphones go in it like so, and then you've got a space for this USB-C cable, which I'm constantly using. And then they also have a cord, which I typically have in here, which is the headphone 3.5 millimeter. Where is that? That's in my apartment where I make my sad music. There's the subtlest little, I don't even know if you can see this, Focal logo right here. And I wish that had a higher contrast in it, because that's the only thing I have to indicate for me which side is the front. I like that I can just throw it in my bag It's safe and protected. There's nothing going wrong with this. It's bigger than these guys just sort of, this is a thinner, I like this. This is a thinner thing. This is a big deal for me, like putting something into the bag. However, the peace of mind that comes from having such, a peace of mind that comes from being able to just throw this in feels great. That's the first everyday use side of it. The second everyday use side of it is, it just feels so comfortable when it's on. It just works so well. Phone calls, driving in the car, going on walks, taking a bath, sitting at the cafe in DAC mode for 7 hours as I'm editing and going through email and listening to Spotify and whatever. It just, from that perspective, works really well. One of the things you do have to think about is Bluetooth connectivity. One of the things this does so well is you can be connected to, like you could just choose between your devices and do the thing. This also, the PXE550, you can have up to 3 devices connected to it, and it just kind of like switches between those things. I think actually 2, and I wished it was 3. That's it. If it had 3, it would have been like so much better in a few situations, like when I pull out the iPad. You pull these out of the case, you're gonna see it on your phone, you're gonna see it on your computer, this little thing going up. Hey, do you wanna connect to this? With these guys, I was connected to my phone, I had to hold down the middle Bluetooth button for a few seconds till it goes like basically into pairing mode, choose it from my computer, then I'm locked in there. Do that again to go back to the phone. Much more manual. But are they worth the extra $300 on top of these? And and are there other headphones in between there or around the same $500 price that are Bluetooth that perform as well in these kind of everyday as well as sound fidelity dynamics, right? I don't know. But for me, the luxury of this is noticeable in my life. I was really personally interested in these, and I found that I kept coming back to these. So they're worth $800 by a long shot to me. Are they worth that to you? It's like, well, I don't know. You could these are like $350. There used to be less than that. It used to be $299. I've always wanted to try those Bose, like the new Bose ones, that have like the column that comes down. I always wanted to see what those things are like, but now I don't need to. It just feels nice to have something like really trusty. That you're like, yeah. And at $800 with a company like Focal, you do believe in the durability and the customer support of it. You believe, I believe a little bit in the promise of it. These, they're going to be supported for like a couple years and then they're like on to the next. Well, actually, I just think that the difference in quality is so noticeable from the sound fidelity side of things. And I wasn't actually anticipating that because most of my life is actually video editing, podcast listening, phone call having. That's how I judge a Bluetooth headphone, right? The everyday useness of it. And getting to do actual music listening with it was surprisingly nice. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna stop there. Questions in the comments below. Use my link. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Bye.